What's up guys, Roman from R+L Entertainment here, and in this theory discussion video for Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on certain events that transpired between a young Lyanna Stark, Rhaegar Targaryen, Ned Stark, and Howland Reed, all of whom are going to be playing a role in the events coming up in Season 6 of the show. Now most fans, pretty much all fans at this point, of the series will be familiar with the R+L J theory, the all but confirmed idea that Jon Snow is the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. This video isn't completely about that, but it does tie into it, and can provide a lot of context for how it all began between those two, how Howland Reed and his family became so loyal to the Starks, and provide some insight into the character of Lyanna Stark for those who may not be completely familiar. So before I get into the specifics of how Rhaegar and Lyanna fell in love, the tourney of Harrenhal was the fateful moment where after winning the joust, Rhaegar Targaryen passed over his wife, Elia Martell, the now deceased sister of Oberyn Martell, and awarded the crown of love and beauty to a 13 or 14-year-old Lyanna Stark, who was already betrothed to Robert Baratheon instead. During this tournament, a 15-year-old Jaime Lannister was inducted into the Kingsguard in the opening ceremonies. Though he was not allowed to attend the tournament itself, Robert Baratheon won the 7-sided melee, and a good number of other events went down. I say all this to just show how important of an event this was in their history, and give a little context for where everyone was in their lives at this time. It should be noted that before this tournament, there is no indication that Rhaegar and Lyanna had ever met before, and this is going to play heavily into my theory on why the two fell in love and ran off together, and should already strike you as odd seeing as Rhaegar crowns her the Queen of Love and Beauty afterwards, which sparked a chain of events that led to Robert's rebellion and the downfall of the Targaryen dynasty. It all starts with Howland Reed, the father of Mira and Jojen Reed, and the longtime friend and bannerman of Ned Stark, being bullied and beaten up by 3 young squires who grabbed his pronged spear from him and kicked and taunted him mercilessly. Lyanna, who had always been a strong, fierce spirit and able enough with weapons, came across this and beat back the 3 squires with a tourney sword, angrily belting out that Howland was the bannerman of her father, Rickard Stark, and afterwards bringing Howland back to her tent and bandaging his wounds, introducing him to her brothers Ned, Brandon, and Benjen, and telling Howland that he had every right to join them at the feast to kick off the tournament. Before I go any further, I want to give a little more backstory on Lyanna and her ability with weapons and horsemanship. She was always described as a wild and free spirit. Arya is actually often described as being almost exactly like her in a lot of ways, and even looking like Lyanna did as a child. In this coming season, Bran is actually going to be having visions of the past, and in one of them, several northern children are being cast to spar with wooden swords under a weirwood tree. In the books, during one of Bran's visions, he sees Lyanna, a girl who looks just like Arya, beating one of her brothers with a wooden sword and knocking him into the pool. This brother is generally taken to be Benjen, as he was the youngest and fits the general description, but that's beside the point. Lyanna was also a capable rider. Her and the oldest Stark child, Brandon, were described as a pair of centaurs, though Lyanna was even better with horsemanship than he was, and a natural-born rider of great skill at a young age. Don't worry, this isn't just useless exposition, it ties directly into the events leading to Rhaegar and Lyanna's attraction. Howland Reed attended the feast and ate with the Starks, during which Rhaegar Targaryen, a noted musician, performed a sad song that made Lyanna openly cry, which her brother Brandon teased her for before she poured wine on his head. Lyanna and Howland later noticed the 3 knights who the bully squires served, one from House Hague, one from House Blount, and one from House Frey. Lyanna pointed them out to the other Stark children, and Benjen offered to find Howland some armor if he wanted to challenge them in the tourney to regain his honor. Unable to reply, and completely untrained in horse and lances and fighting like that, Howland prayed that night to the old gods. Late in the second day of the tournament, a mystery knight clad in mismatched pieces of ill-fitting armor appeared, short in stature and bearing a weirwood sigil with a laughing red face on the shield, and challenged the knights whose squires had attacked Howland to defend his honor. Defeating all 3 of them in the joust, the knight gained custody over their horses and armor, declaring that if they wanted them back, they should discipline their unruly squires and teach them honor, which they did severely. Cheered by the common people, the mystery knight of the Laughing Tree attracted the attention of the lords present. With the Mad King Aerys paranoid and convinced that this was one of his enemies, he sent his son Rhaegar to find and unmask the mystery knight, but Rhaegar came back claiming to only have found the shield with the laughing weirwood abandoned in a tree. Later in the tournament, Rhaegar gave a legendary, inspired performance, defeating 4 members of the Kingsguard, including the legendary Arthur Dayne in the process, and winning the joust, leading to that fateful moment where all the smiles died, as he rode right past Elia Martell and awarded this young Stark girl, who he had never been known to even have met before, the crown of love and beauty. Now, why would Rhaegar do this? When would he have had the time to attain this strong adoration for Lyanna from afar if they had never been around each other to gain it? Some people might say that he simply became attracted to her for her physical beauty, and he definitely didn't have any strong romantic feelings for Elia, but I think there was more to it than that. I think that Lyanna Stark, having been known to be skilled beyond her years with riding, skilled in weaponry, and willing to stand up for this Cranogman Howland Reed, is the Knight of the Laughing Tree. I think she put on mismatched pieces of armor, donned a sigil that speaks of the North, where both her family and their bannermen are from, and defended his honor yet again in the tournament. She may have even been partially inspired to do so by Rhaegar's song at the feast, but regardless of whether she was or not, I think she was the Mystery Knight. It is perfectly in line with her character, and you can guess where I'm going with this. I think Rhaegar found her. I think that when Aerys sent him out after the Knight of the Laughing Tree, he found Lyanna Stark and was blown away by her strength and courage, so different than his own wife, who was notably frail and somewhat weak. I think her performance in the joust inspired Rhaegar so much that he destroyed all of his competition in the remainder of the tournament, and seeing as she was the reason he did it, he awarded her with the crown of love and beauty. There was no other moment where Rhaegar could have fell in love with Lyanna, unless you think he just saw her and was just like, oh, that girl's hot, I'll publicly shame my wife and piss off my entire country for no other reason. This is how they fell in love. The other factors, like Lyanna being worried that Robert Baratheon wasn't going to be faithful in their upcoming marriage, Rhaegar not being fully satisfied with his marriage to Elia, and unable to produce a third child with her, which was massively important to Rhaegar as he was obsessed with fulfilling prophecies, and the convenience of his song touching her at that moment, all just plays into this fateful day where the eventuality of their history was decided. A few other random notes about this: the story of the Knight of the Laughing Tree was told to Bran by Meera during their travels, and though she was convinced that her father Howland had defended his own honor as the Mystery Knight, Jojen seemed to know differently and pointed out that it was strange that Ned had never mentioned this story to Bran before. Some take that as support that Ned may have been the Mystery Knight, but I don't think that makes nearly as much sense narratively, and if Ned knew or had some idea that Lyanna being the Knight of the Laughing Tree had sparked this whole deal with Rhaegar, it would be something that he was unwilling to speak about again, just like so many other details of her past and the true events that had transpired. So that's it. That's my take on how Rhaegar and Lyanna fell in love. There doesn't seem to be a single moment where it could have happened other than at this tournament. And for Rhaegar to have made such a big public declaration right then and there, he must have been completely inspired by this girl. And her taking to the lists as a Mystery Knight to defend the honor of one of her father's bannermen is the only thing that could have done it. So I hope you guys like this theory discussion video for Game of Thrones. If you like it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I do all sorts of videos on Game of Thrones, DC and Marvel Comics, The Walking Dead, and plenty of other shows and comic books and movies. And also check out some of my other Game of Thrones video, including my Tyrion as the Mad King's son theory discussion video, and some of my other links that will be in the video as annotations and in the description box below. Also, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/RNS Entertainment Channel, subscribe to my gaming channel, and have a good one, guys.